Welcome to This Just In, the show bringing you the latest advancements in healthcare, strategy, innovation, and public policy. And now, for the fastest voice in healthcare, here's your host, Justin Barnes.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the special edition of This Just In Radio. I'm your host, Justin Barnes. Today, we're broadcasting live from the HIMSS annual conference in Las Vegas, HIMSS21. It was not an easy road to get here, but many thanks to all of my guests that stuck with me and all of you to make this show happen. And it's great to be here with all of you and continue this trend for 7 years straight after my first broadcast live from HIMSS21 in Chicago. That was a phenomenal event and launched a great annual trend of key thought leaders sharing best practices and strategies to successfully navigate the future of healthcare. As many of you know, my goal for broadcasting live each year from the HIMSS annual conference is to create an information medium that shares best practices, strategies, and actionable intelligence from the industry's leading sources and experts. We're very fortunate that most of these guests are also members of the Health Innovation Think Tank, where we transparently share healthcare and health IT best practices as well as strategies. You can find out more about the think tank at healthinnovationthinktank.com. My goal, along with all my guests today, will be to offer tactics and strategies to not only survive, but to thrive as you navigate your hospital, your physician practice, your company, or even your family through all these changes occurring across healthcare. There's more opportunity than ever before for all of us to thrive, but we must understand how healthcare is evolving, how policy and reimbursement is shifting, and where best practices and innovation can support our efforts. And I think Micky is just joining us now, which is perfect timing. Hey, Micky, how are you, my friend?
Good. How's it going?
Fantastic. Yeah. So where are you calling in from, Micky?
ONC headquarters in Newton, Massachusetts.
I love it. That's perfect. Cool. I don't know if you know this. I'm originally from Boston, so at Newton Center. So love it.
Oh, really? Is that right? Okay. Yeah, I live in West Newton. I'm actually looking out on the Fessenden School field, if you remember the Fessenden School.
Of course. Sure.
Yep.
Well, we're grateful to have you here today, you and your team. I was telling Peter how thankful I am. He always brings phenomenal guests, and it always usually kicks off a lot of my shows. So thank you. I'm grateful for you to be here. You and I have known each other for a long time, so thank you for joining the show and circling back here. So I would just love to hear a little bit, some of your focuses from the ONC and what you guys are hoping to accomplish over the next 6 months and some of the areas as an industry we should be focused on as vendors and as consumers and also as physicians and providers. So.
Yeah, sure. So, happy to talk about, certainly ONC priorities, as I discussed yesterday, are, related to the 21st Century Cures Act.
Yep.
COVID and public health is, a very large priority. 21st Century Cures Act is, related to both the information blocking, or as I like to call it, the information sharing,
yes.
Requirements there, as well as TEFCA, which is the Nationwide Interoperability Network. And health equity by design is another focus area for us, which is thinking through how we have more fundamental sort of consideration of health equity in the way we design and implement and use health IT systems. And then we spend a lot of time now on alignment of federal partners, which is a growing demand and opportunity because more and more agencies are getting involved in trying to do things with health IT systems.
Mm-hmm. So, obviously there's a lot of policy that you're helping to move forward and roll out, but what are some of the nuances, you taking over as ONC coordinator, what are some of the areas that you specifically want to focus on? I know that you have specific, regulations, rules that you're following, but what are some of the nuances that you feel you're going to bring to the office?
Sure. Yeah. So, I think a couple of things, and some of them are related to, to those rules, which is to say, I think being able to set clear expectations in the market on what are the kinds of things that the federal government sees as priorities and how are we going to do that and what are the timelines for that? And I think, having been, my 20 years in health IT up until January, 12:01 p.m. of January 20th, we're all in the private sector.
Right.
And so, I got a deep appreciation there for the need for, the value that the federal government can play and particularly ONC, but the value the federal government can play in health IT because the market is so fragmented on the supply and the demand side, but also how a core part of that value is setting expectations and laying out timelines, laying out expectations so that people can plan accordingly. The worst thing is to have that be a great degree of uncertainty knowing that, federal government actions do play a strong role in the market. And if there's uncertainty around things like timelines around, and other things, then that creates, sort of confusion in the market. It stalls things. It makes people hesitant to make investments. And frankly, it makes people who may want things to go in different directions. It gives the opportunity for doing things that may not be in the public interest. So, we've had a lot of focus on, with information blocking, with TEFCA, with all of these things, being transparent as possible and doing as much as we can to indicate to the market where we're headed and where we'd like to help.
You've done a great job. And I do want to let you know, the 21st Century Cures Act has really fueled interoperability in the industry, standards-based API and FHIR. I'm personally grateful for it. The industry needs it desperately, and it's working. So I just want to make sure that I know you probably through public comments and just your own relationships, you do see that. But I also want to publicly acknowledge it. It's made a huge difference. There's a lot of partners in the private sector where I work, that have opened up data that's never been opened up before. It's expedited interoperability 20 years, literally in the past year. And it's exciting.
That's great to hear.
And it's only getting better every single day. I'm watching pipes. I simplify it. But I watch these pipes double and triple in the volume of data that's going through them in standardized formats so we can consume it and share it and move it where it needs to be at such a velocity. And we have a long way to go, but we also got to respect how far we've come in the last even 2 years, year and a half.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And again, having been in the private sector for the vast majority of my health IT career, and I mentioned this yesterday too. The reason I don't like the framing of information blocking is that it has this connotation that everyone is an information blocker until proven innocent. And that just hasn't been the majority of my experience. There are bad actors out there, absolutely, or people who do things that are, no one's a bad actor.
Correct.
But for the vast majority of those for whom this is a change, what I've seen and lived is that it's a question of priority. It's just a question of being able to say, information sharing is actually a priority and you need to move this up on your priority list. And organizations are ready to do that once they know that this has got to be a priority among the 23 other things they have on their priority list.
Very true. So what are some of the things that we should be thinking about, moving forward? A little bit, visionary and just thinking about 2022 or 2023. Obviously, we have a lot of work to do today. You just walked through, regarding interoperability, regarding, moving data. But what we should be looking forward to, come next year and the year after to look ahead. I know it's tough from a federal government standpoint because you have the here and now and again, a lot of boundaries to work within. But what are some of your thoughts there, Mickey?
Oh, no, we've got the crystal ball. Did I say that out loud? I shouldn't have said that.
Love it.
I would mention a couple things. One is, I think, that moving to platform business and technical models, I think, is the inevitable trend, right? There's a novel by Joseph Heller, not Catch-22. It might have been Good as Gold or something happened. I forget. I don't think it was Catch-22. But there's a character in there and offers a piece of advice, which is don't screw around with the inevitable. They used a little bit more colorful language. I won't use that on a PG-rated station here, right. But I think you can probably guess what they said. Yeah. But anyway, and I would just say that like platform business models, APIs, and apps. We've seen that has had profound effects in almost every other part of the internet economy. Yes. And it's now starting in healthcare. And you alluded to it, but I think that there's more about completely engaging and buying into that kind of model. I know John Halamka is going to be, following me here, I think. And, he is the voice of the platform business model at Mayo Clinic Platform. And so, he's much more articulate on it than I am. But I think that, being able to really embrace that first off and say, what does that mean for my business? What does that mean for the things I'm going to do is, the first thing. Algorithms are certainly another component of this, right? More and more, we're getting into that. John also will be, have a lot to say about that. But I think that's just inevitable. With more data, more computing capability, you've got both the benefit as well as the downside and the dark side of what algorithms can do in intended and unintended ways. So I think that's just here. Again, it's inevitable. The other thing is what I pointed to, which is health equity by design. I just think that, that as we think about the ways that we've thought about software design for safety, for privacy, for security, I think that is a part of just where we are as a society, and also certainly from a federal government priority perspective, that thinking about health equity as one of those core parameters that needs to be built into systems that identify health equity issues and help us to rectify those health equity issues as a fundamental design component is also going to be, about where this is all headed as well.
It's excellent. And I will say everything you just touched on, I'm seeing lots of that just even here on the HIMSS show floor now. So it's great to see that we've already begun some of that, but obviously we have a long way to go. And I appreciate you sharing the crystal ball. I mean, obviously the ONC and the work that you and your team are doing is fundamental to this industry. And I always try to close here with the respect for the ONC. It's a lot of the times a thankless job. It's an amazing service. Your team works so hard. People don't realize, Steve and the whole team and Peter, you guys read every single comment that comes in, and we're grateful for that. And you have for years and years and years and years and years. And I just want to make sure people they engage your work. They read what you publish. They respond to it, share their thoughts, their best practices. I know people tend to always share what's bad, but it's very important for the federal government to hear what's good, what's working, so you guys can leverage that and then fix what may not be right or may be wrong. And so, I'm a strong believer in that. It's served me very well through my career, and I'm just grateful for you, for your work, for your team, and all you guys do every single day. So, Micky, thank you very much for joining us today, and thank you to all your team.
Great. Thank you. Really enjoyed it.
You got it. And I think we have Jon here in queue.
Hey, great to see you.
Great to see you, my friend. So Dr. Jon Halamka, author and president of the Mayo Clinic platform. Welcome back to the show, my good friend.
Well, thanks. Coming to you from Mayo Clinic today. So Rochester, Minnesota, as opposed to Las Vegas.
Well, or Unity Sanctuary Farm, correct?
That's it. There you go.
He usually dials in from there, and I love it, and we always talk about it. But, Jon, I know you have a busy day. I'm grateful for you taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us. So, first of all, how are you doing, my friend?
Well, it's a remarkable time, right? You've probably heard me say multiple times, the alignment of technology, policy, and culture is important for breakthrough innovation. Mm-hmm. There is no better time in history than the urgency created by COVID and the collaboration, what I'll call reduction in competitive angst, for us to come together and do amazing things in digital health.
I completely agree and love it and love the energy. So what are some of the healthcare and health IT trends that you're seeing in the industry? We always love this. We always love to hear your crystal ball. So what are your thoughts?
Right. So every HIMSS has a word, right? Yeah. Blockchain, maybe 2017. Mm-hmm. And we got into machine learning. Well, if you look at today, what we're seeing is this unique application of algorithms and novel data sources to build continuous wellness and ongoing care recommendations. So the crystal ball is really this. If we're going to be using algorithms increasingly, we better understand something about their performance, mm-hmm. ethics, bias, fairness, fitness for purpose. A lot of energy in the next several quarters will be to labeling our algorithms. So it's a bit like a soup can. You pick up a soup can and it says 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 50 grams of fat, and 700 calories a serving. I hope you wouldn't eat that.
Correct. It would not.
Well, what if the algorithm says developed on white males and we're going to be using this on black females? Would you use that? No. Right? You want to understand something about the algorithms we deploy to ensure they're going to care for the patient in front of you. That's going to be a really important trend. And figuring out how to bring data and algorithms together in a secure, privacy-preserving, and IP-preserving container will be another major trend.
Excellent. And also, I don't know, did you hear Micky's segment before you? He actually referenced you regarding APIs and FHIR and all that good stuff.
I did not, unfortunately.
Okay. He referenced you, and, well, first of all, how proficient you are, because he just predicted the continued growth and obviously gave a lot of accolades to what's been accomplished. You've been a strong proponent for decades now on interoperability, but specifically FHIR and what that can bring to our communities. And we're starting to see a lot of that in action now. I mentioned to Micky here, I've seen personally, 20 years of interoperability expedited in the past year. Just literally that much. I've seen pipes open up, data flowing more than ever before than I've seen in the previous 20 years. So, grateful for the work that's being done and where we're going to go. But what are you seeing? So what are some of the best practices that you would offer from your perch and your background and expertise to other CIOs and leaders of health systems here at HIMSS to navigate where we are today? What are some of the areas that you'd continue to focus on for them?
Sure. So every time we implement a new project, we have choices. You could put a server in a closet somewhere, or you could use the cloud. You could create a proprietary interface of bubblegum and baling wire, or use FHIR. And so what I am seeing across all of my CIO colleagues and friends, they're saying, you know what? It might be hard. It might be change. It might, in fact, require budgetary reallocation from capital to OPEX. Let's do every next project in the cloud. Mm-hmm. Let's do every next interface with Fire, even if Fire may not have completely fully baked data elements for my purpose. Using JavaScript object notation and a Fire approach is the right thing to do.
Yep.
Let's do this recognizing that we're not silos, right? We work in a global ecosystem. And I have seen this last year bring collaboration, joint ventures, and partnerships where people are coming together for societal benefit and hegemony of none. So there you go. Cloud, Fire, collaboration. That's your secret ingredient.
I love it. That's awesome. So what should we be looking at in the next couple of years? You obviously have a very clear crystal ball. And so where do you, either where you're focused or where you say we should all be thinking about in 2 to 3 years from now, maybe something that we haven't thought of, that we haven't seen on a billboard somewhere. What are you thinking about?
So I'm going to say something rather controversial to you.
Excellent.
Societal resilience. Mm-hmm. And what do I mean by that? Pick up the New York Times this morning and try to avoid getting depressed.
Right.
Right. Oh, we've got fires and floods and pestilence. We've got lack of collaboration and polarization. Well, ask yourself, if the human species is going to survive, how do we put in place the elements we need for societal resistance? And let me give you an example.
Please.
So we've done all this great work with cloud and Fire. Well, in a time of COVID, what did we learn? Well, EHRs may very well have some standard APIs, but has anyone tried to interface ERP and EHR so that we actually understand the supply chain that is necessary to care for the patients that are going to be coming to us in the next few weeks? No one's done such work, right? So what we ended up doing was we used a highly advanced interoperability method called Excel. You may have used it.
I have. That's great.
And that's utterly not scalable.
Right.
Right? So as you look at these next couple of quarters, we need to ask ourselves, where are we doing things that are very manual, that are very much not going to be, for whatever the next pandemic or next challenge we have, not going to be fit for purpose? And let's put in the plumbing so that we will be able to flip a switch and be able to say, who needs a ventilator? How many masks do we have? Where are the drugs and the vaccines? Oh, how well are they working? Because although we did a reasonable job over the last year, we did it, I will tell you, with a whole lot of sweat and manual processes as opposed to something more societally resilient and scalable.
Excellent wisdom, Jon. I couldn't agree more. And it's kind of ironic. One of the largest ERP companies reached out to me last week to begin a collaboration. Of ERP, which is just interesting because you bring it up. They reached out, and so there is some thought there. That's a specific use case, but still, at least some of us are also thinking in that direction. And I actually think it's very sage advice around being ready just for the next big thing and what happened, because we're already seeing it a little bit with this Delta variant. Obviously HIMSS shifted pretty dramatically over the past week. A lot of participation, but it's also outside of HIMSS. It's travel, it's people's daily lives. I'm even changing some of the things that I'm doing just to make sure that I'm always as safe as possible. What are some of a foundation there, or an area of as we close, a best practice to help people over the next 3 to 6 months even be as wise as they can be, or think about something that maybe they aren't thinking about today? Because you have a great perspective.
Well, not surprisingly, it's all about data. On Saturday morning, Mayo Clinic and a number of collaborators published to a preprint server, I'll send you the link,
Great.
A study of the efficacy of Pfizer and Moderna vaccines against Delta variant. And here's the numbers. We saw in the standard COVID, the alpha version, 86 to 90% efficacy. What we found was, when we start looking at Delta, which is now about 70% of the infections in this country, 42% efficacy of the vaccine against Delta. Now, okay, that sounds very bad, but remember, although you might get infected, you won't get sick. Right? So you need to understand, I see, there's a difference between infection efficacy and serious illness or death. And therefore, plan that as we see all these variants, at least the variants we know about now, they will be virulent and they will be contagious, and you might get infected, but you'll be okay if you're vaccinated. That's the kind of decision you can make if you look at the data.
That is excellent advice. And that's actually, I actually do want to read what you published, because when I was researching, when the variant stepped up, and I was researching my travel plans over the coming weeks, I actually dove into the Wall Street Journal a little bit because I wanted to look for a credible source also, and I think they did a pretty good job. And I looked at several different media sources to understand exactly what you just went through. You found through your own research, but I had to go out on my own and find out, what does this really mean for me? Because I care to, obviously getting sick, I'm not so concerned about, but obviously getting severely ill, I am concerned about. And so that's the variance I looked for. I've been vaccinated, so I looked for, is this okay? And what will this mean to me if I do get sick? And it's exactly what you just brought up is what I found from my initial research, but now you obviously have much better research. So,
well, I'll send you the link. It's public. You can share it with all your listeners.
I will certainly do that. Jon, anything in parting and just from your words of wisdom from us, or that you'd like for us to know, or some of the things that you're thinking about that you're going to focus on in parting words in the last couple minutes here, or a minute here?
Sure. Boundless optimism.
Love it.
Right? And why do I say that? So Margaret Mead told us, change, as we look in any society, is generally accomplished by a small group of people, thoughtful and committed. Mm-hmm. Indeed, in fact, it's the only thing that's really ever worked to create societal change. So I would tell your listeners, if we don't organize to make the place a better world and to change our industry, who will?
That's right.
It's all up to us.
I love it. Great wisdom, sage advice. Thank you so much, Jon, Dr. Halamka. And I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, my friend. Thank you. All the best.
Be well.
Will do. All right. And my next guest, Jon Zimmerman. Welcome back to the show, Jon. How are you, my friend?
I am so delighted to be here. Thank you for having me on this fantastic panel you put together today, Justin. I'm well, and I know you are.
Oh, yeah.
I'm looking at you.
It's been a great day, great morning. Jon Zimmerman, Chief Executive Officer at Holon Solutions. And obviously, it's great to have Jon back on the air. So first of all, how's the show been for you? When did you get in town?
Yesterday, and had a lot of very powerful meetings with great friends. I was delighted to get a big squeeze from Adam Gale from Class.
Oh, cool, yeah.
So I'm a big fan of what Class does,
yes,
and his leadership team.
Actually, I've never had them on air. I've got to invite Adam and that team to get to have some airtime with me. I've never added Class to my run of show, but I need to.
I think I know what he would like to talk about.
That's
so
awesome.
We'll talk about that.
Love it.
He's doing some great stuff.
I would love your perspective. What are some of the healthcare, health IT trends that you're seeing in the industry?
Couple of things. First, I think we deserve to put a shout out to all the healthcare workers who are keeping us safe and taking care of us when we need it. They are a godsend, and we appreciate them.
Thank you.
Trends, right? We believe in appropriate care for everyone anywhere, as you and I have discussed in our other lives, okay? Yeah. So what are we seeing, right? We're seeing multiple simultaneous data explosions from a lot of different areas. There's more data being created from care delivery, from patient reported.
Love it.
There are more requirements and more solutions for analytics, quality, cost, transparency, efficiency. We see that one. There's more settings of care, as you just talked about with Paul Bryant from Athena Health. With more mobility, we think that's happening. And more process automation, and with Jon Halamka's comments, more available intelligence. Okay? It creates burden, though, on the practices who have to deliver and people who administer care. There's a death by 1,000 cuts. They're getting slaughtered with insights, not in their workflow, and that's a problem. And there's last couple things. Better data language for us all to use as a new foundation. Hats off to the HL7 fire people who are doing such great work to try to take the cacophony and make it processable more than ever before. And isn't this a great time for us to start to lift our heads up a little bit and using your show, your platform here to really think of what is the kind of system we want to have.
Right.
So that's something we're seeing right now.
I love it. That's how I selected all of my guests today. They're people who they're creating the future of healthcare. My specific guests, are creating what we're going to see tomorrow. These are the thought leaders. These are the people that I wanted here because I want to make sure that, we together, it takes all of us to create our future and what we want to work within. And these people do it. So I'm glad you mentioned that, Jon.
Jon Halamka's quote about boundless optimism from Margaret Mead and who's going to actually do this. Hats off to him again. Yeah,
completely agree. So what are a few best practices or strategies that you can share with my audience to help us navigate those trends you mentioned?
there's basically three that I've come up with. One is collaboration, right? Know your local ecosystem. Everybody's in a local or national, but a local ecosystem of key stakeholders. And what kind of information sharing would enable your business and their business? That's where collaboration comes from. We're moving from transactional interchanges between two parties to multi-party stakeholders among multiples. It's a new way of doing things, but that's why I think Paul said value-based care is still here. That's part of it.
Oh, yes.
The second one, I'm going to steal from Simon Sinek and some of the
Love
smart things.
Simon Sinek.
Going on from Amazon, which is understand the why.
You got it.
And work backwards for solution adoption. So make sure we know what we're trying to solve. Make sure that there are key sets of curated data, information, knowledge that should be delivered to which personas. There's no panacea. There's work to be done here. And have to be careful not to replace alert fatigue with insight fatigue. That would be a really bad thing. Okay? And last, let your voice be heard. Whoever is listening in this audience, their voices matter.
Yes.
HL7, Weedy, Class, Adams, one of them, the American Academy for Home Care Medicine. These are all great examples of voices that are working together to create a new, better sharing environment. But we need everybody's voices to be heard so we can do things that matter.
And so that's excellent advice, John. And that's actually almost all my guests have mentioned in some capacity collaboration and the need, and actually a lot of the components even around fire and interoperability that you mentioned. And that's actually why I love doing this show, is because I look for themes. And what's really cool is we're all saying similar things, and we're all moving in the same direction. And that's actually how you can accomplish a lot. So that's extremely exciting. I always love working with you, John. So now, thinking ahead, I know it's difficult, and I've mentioned this to all my guests. I know we just have to get through today. We are crazy schedules. But thinking about, 2 or 3 years from now, what should we have our eye on, or what do you think some of the things we should look out for?
I have 4 words for that.
Sure.
Stay well, stay home. Okay? The extraordinary advances in information, communications, biomedical, and other technologies are enabling smarter preventions, monitoring, Paul talked about that, maintenance and healing, essentially anywhere where the consumer is. We're going to be in a world where people are going to have to do much less going to care and having much more care coming to them.
Excellent.
So now is the time, right now is the time to start to organize the path to this new and better world. I think there's no shortage of technologies or visions. What we need is a new, bold, galvanizing, multi-stakeholder collaborative movement to ensure we enable appropriate care for everyone anywhere.
That's excellent. I love it. And I completely agree. And, with interoperability, what we're doing with APIs, we're moving data around. We're looking at strategies for how to, enable remote care. And that's just a big component even here at HIMSS. But I know where it's going and at home. And managing that and pushing data where it needs to be and pushing care to you at home, pushing care to wherever you are, not in a facility or at a practice or wherever at a hospital. So excellent advice, great points, great insights, and I look forward to collaborating with you even off air because I know we got some great stuff going. So
we do. Thank you again for having me. It's great to be here with
Always,
you.
My friend, and have a great rest of your conference.
You bet, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, John. You got it, buddy.
Bye.
Jon Zimmerman, Holon Solutions. Thank you to everybody for joining us, and just a note of gratitude here to all the partners of the weekly syndicated radio show, This Just In. Thank you so much to Roberta. She was the initial brainchild of the This Just In radio show, and we've been broadcasting it now for 7 years. And also many thanks to This Just In radio show partners, Business Radio X, Rama on Healthcare, Healthcare Now Radio, and certainly the HIMSS organization for all their continued support. Without them, the show would not be possible. And just thank you for everyone joining us today. And please tune in weekdays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Pacific. As always, you can track me on Twitter at HIT Advisor and use the hashtag ThisJustinRadio, and we can respond to your comments from the show. If you miss any of this broadcast or want to hear more, my shows are always posted at Apple iTunes, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Google Play, and Tune In. So thanks, everyone. What a great HIMSS21, and I hope you have a great rest of your week. Thanks so much. Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Roberta.